got finished watching the Reds Milwaukee game, or Reds Brewers game. That was quite a game. Very slow baseball game there. But near the end, they started to come back. They were trailing behind 14-5, and they managed to get to 11. I mean, when something like that happens, it's quite cool to see, especially when it's your own team. There's nothing more exciting, than seeing your team do well. That's coming from a guy who grew up in Seattle with, we lost our basketball team. We lost the Sonics. And they became the Oklahoma Thunder. We have the Mariners who haven't done well since, 2001. The Seahawks are great. They haven't done great since 2015 or so. That's the last time they did well. You have the 2005 Bowl against the Steelers, then the 2014 against the Broncos, we demolish, and then 2015 and we lose to the Patriots. I remember that game when I was watching, I got punched in the face. I made fun of my younger brother, and he, I don't know if he slapped me or punched me, but it felt the same. We just recently got a hockey team, which, I used to like hockey because it was fast, but I like how slow sports are. I like how they're not French or, gay or anything like that. And, it's quite nice. Gotta be honest with you. It's honest with you. I like when something isn't fancy. I like when it's boring. You know what I mean? But every fucking city has their own thing, has their own fruit or their own kind of unique thing. Florida has oranges. Georgia has peaches. Washington has apples. New York is the Big Apple. A lot of, stand-ups either going to LA, coming out of Canada, coming out of, the tri-state area, Jersey, New York, wherever. Wherever. And, hold on a sec. And, it's just weird. Fixing my volume there. It's just weird. Seattle doesn't really, it's not a sports city. You know what I mean? It's not a sports city. In terms of football, that's New England, that's Pittsburgh. In terms of baseball, that's, New York. And all these other cities are historic. Philly used to be the capital. Now Washington's the capital. New York is a fucking city. It's not what it used to be. A lot of funny. You go to some clubs that there's some normal people, some really funny people that are just like, where have you been all my life? There used to be a lot of movies that are being made in Seattle, but a lot of them foreign. Like Star Wars and Tatooine. That was made in Arizona or Nevada. I don't know where it was made, but literally in a place where there's just nothing. There's fucking nothing there but sand and just it's lacking. It's like Antarctica, where there's just penguins and ice and shit. I was watching a documentary on that. The discovery of Antarctica, which is between 1895 and 22, 25, whatever. Um, and they took, like the Eskimos did. They took dogs on sleds, and they were trying to get to the center of Antarctica, that southern pole. The South Pole is Antarctica, but the South Pole of the South Pole. We're trying to get there, and they took ponies. It's so fucking funny. They took ponies, and then of course they died too. There was a lot of malnutrition. They didn't have enough food, and there was a lot of scurvy going around, and these fucking things were dying. They had to put out these dogs and just, I don't know, I guess take out their guns and shoot them, but I didn't see any footage of them with guns. They had skis and those sticks they use, and I don't know, they poke them with the thing. I don't even know what they're called. I've never been skiing, I think maybe the only thing either Washington State has was like, I don't know, Mount St. Helens, I guess. But every city has something, There's a lot of cities that are known for crime, like Detroit or Oakland, and now like Chicago, New York. I mean, New York City, not like upstate New York or anything like that. But maybe Austin. There's kind of some homicide there. What else? What else? Or where else? Boston. There are a lot of fights in Boston. I don't know. It's a lame city, in my opinion. I grew up there for many years. I lived on, Capitol Hill, right off Broadway. Moved down south at one point. Lived in Seward Park, right off Rainier. That might have been one of the worst places. There weren't many like hoods, like bad areas. You have like Renton, Burien, and maybe Rainier. I think that's it. But Rainier, you knew about it. Like you didn't know about it if it was Burien or Renton. Bellevue's pretty good. I mean, there's a lot of like libs there, but it's not like a dangerous place. If nothing to really worry about, like, 'cause there's no place you can't go, Sure, there's a lot of homeless and that shit, but what really came out of Seattle? Now I'm thinking about it. You have that homeless documentary from I think it was like the early '80s. It was called like Streetwise. I remember watching that as a kid and maybe 10th grade or whatever it was. Just so many times. You have George Miller. We have like one sitcom, Frasier, which wasn't even filmed in Seattle. It was filmed in LA. I think there was like one episode, the 200th one, where they go to Pike Place Market and they go to the Space Needle and they take the train or the light rail. But Seattle isn't a famous city. It used to be, There's a lot of Asians there, and like that culture, that's what it's become. And sure, you got companies like Google and Chrome, whatever, Microsoft. But what, like, it's not this like, ooh, I want to go to Seattle. Like, we don't have a basketball team. We don't have a big baseball team. Nobody cares about the Sounders. Nobody cares about our fucking soccer team. The Seahawks are great, but they're not what they used to be. And now we got a hockey team, which is like it's bigger, but I don't know. It's not a like when I think of cities in America, I'm thinking Boston, New York, Philly, Chicago, maybe Dallas, maybe Austin especially now, Los Angeles, maybe Portland even. Portland's very hipster, used to be. I'm thinking maybe Connecticut, maybe upstate New York, maybe Miami. That's a bigger one. Maybe Cleveland, sort of. But Seattle, It's not a city, man. I don't know. It doesn't have anything that really jumps out at me in particular. You know what I mean? But in terms of movies, there's a lot of art that comes out of there. Parallax View. There's some more. Sleepless in Seattle. It's not the greatest movie, but Parallax View is a classic. You know, Elvis Goes to the World's Fair in 1962. That's a pretty good one. It's not bad. You know what I mean? Not the worst one. There was a guy in Coach. He's not from Seattle, but he's from I think Tacoma. What was his name? The guy, not the guy, not Coach for Cheers, but Coach for Coach. Shit, can't remember his name. He was in the movie with Richard Pryor. I think it was called Stir Crazy. I think it was like a security guard in there. He was also in Poltergeist. Man, what was that guy's name? Because you have Jerry Van Dyke was on that show. The German guy who was who played the voice of Patrick and one of the animated Transformer shows. No, that's the character. Hayden Fox. What was his actual name? Anyway, that guy was born in Tacoma, I think, and then you have Bing Crosby, an old singer in like the 60s or whatever. He was on probably on like Ed Sullivan or Carson, one of those shows, and he was also on not Joan Rivers, the other woman. Shit. What was that broad's name? I can't remember her name now. Not Phyllis Diller, not Joan Rivers, the other one. Carol Burnett, who was also in the Carol Burnett show. So Bing Crosby, you have a couple famous people coming out of Seattle, like Bing Crosby, or like he came out of Tacoma, which is like south of Seattle, or is it north? I don't know. So Bing Crosby, George Miller was on Carson and Letterman. And then the guy who played Hayden Fox was born in Tacoma as well, I think. Obviously, so many fucking musicians like Kurt Cobain, Hendrix. My brother went to his high school, which is, I don't know, it's pretty cool. Garfield. Shit. Who else? Like, it's a cool city. I came from. There's a lot of hipsters, but hipsters are, I don't know. The more Canadian, the more like Portland, more LA than actual Seattle. Got some homeless people. It's not. I don't like hippies. That was something, I'd say like high schoolers, maybe emo and goth people, or like things like that. But Nirvana, which became Foo Fighters, those are Seattle bands. Hendrix, obviously. But that's it. We got our apples, we got our weed. That's it. Like it's not a special city. Like, I'd be much more proud if I came out of New York or Philly or Chicago or Oakland or Detroit or Boston, But like, I don't know. Like, I'm more proud of being Jewish than I am coming out of Seattle, A lot of Jewish comedians or artists who are just, I mean, of the past life. Now they're all schmucks with their schwanzes and their kvetching. It's a mess. But Seattle's it's not its own thing. Like every city has its own special, unique thing. If it's sports or fruit or cars or types of people or history, it's something. You have something coming out of that city. Detroit making those Ford cars way back when, those Model Ts, like in the 30s, 40s, pumping out these things. But what the fuck do we have? Like, I don't know. We had a good basketball team that won a couple. We won the first one in '79, and we lost the second one in the '90s to the Bulls. You know, we won against the Broncos, and then we lost. We lost to the Steelers. Then we won against the Broncos, and then we lost to the Patriots. You know, and then all the kids were going around calling them the Deflatriots, which I guess was our way of rebelling or some shit like that. But I don't know. It's not like the two places I'm not comfortable being part of is Seattle, you know, or anywhere near Seattle, connected to it, and the Call of Duty zombies individuals. I don't want to call it a community because that's gay. Calling anything a community and seeing what has been happening to sports, to baseball. Just watching a baseball game, and I've talked about it before, but these players are wearing sunglasses and necklaces. And there was a game where the Mariners were playing at the Astros not too long ago. It was this season, actually. And it had, like, space on the front. And it was, like, Astros in space. And it was so pathetic. It was so embarrassing. And I was just ashamed. And then there was another game, because it's Mother's Day. The fucking Mariners were wearing pink. They're wearing pink, and I couldn't bear to watch. It was so bad. It was so fucking awful. Watching these players in pink, the most boring American sport. But imagine whoever's doing this. I don't know. Make the most boring sport interesting for money, for viewership, to be talked about, like curling or badminton, or all the really rich white kid sports like curling or badminton or pickleball or tennis or golf or lacrosse, like all those games, or even the one with the broom, just make it more interesting, but the other way, like play baseball with fruit, with round-shaped fruit, like apples or plums or, I don't know, oranges, rather than, talking about, there was an interview today in the Reds Brewers game that was live on YouTube for 2022, game of the week. And I'm seeing like these stupid YouTube trophies, like player of the game. What was that, a downgrade from most valuable player of the game? And I see that stupid trophy is supposed to be like, well, your schwanz is much bigger now. You got a trophy. It's like, that's what you give kids for graduating preschool or kindergarten. It's like, what the fuck is this shit? This is something a cult. This is so stupid. Jesus Christ, man. That's stupid. That's really, retarded. And, I can't believe what they're doing. And they're interviewing players. Oh, I hear you have a baby. It's like, what? I'm here to watch a game, and they're playing trivia. They're asking baseball players about their kids, and they're making it so feminine. I want to throw a rock in my goddamn TV. There is nothing more fucking frustrating than empathizing a baseball game. It's supposed to be boring. When I'm watching baseball, I want to be as brain dead as an 80-year-old Alzheimer's patient. I want to be like drunk off my ass, just watching the game. Nothing's happening. I just want to watch the game. I don't even want to see the scoreboard. You know, way back in the day, all you saw with the screen at the end of the game, there was a timer running down, and during a commercial break, they would show the score of the game. That's how a sports game should be. That's how it's supposed to be done. And these sportscasters are so bad at their job. They're supposed to be some sort of professionals, and they're the worst kind there are. They're talking about, oh, who are your top 5 favorite baseball managers in the major league? It's like, oh, it's okay. It's an opinionated question. You won't get in trouble for this. And it's like, if this was anything else, you would not be saying that. Shut up. You know exactly what you're doing. I don't know who's doing this. If it's women, if it's, I don't know, people who are trying to make baseball better. We got to make it more modern. We need to really apply the progress to it, run it through the machine of, making things more liberal. I don't know. Who am I to say? And they're ruining baseball. They're ruining football. They're ruining basketball. I was watching a basketball game. It was one of the playoffs games this season, actually. And I don't know if it was one of the Heat players or the Golden State players, but one of those bigger teams, And personally, I always root against the Heat. Because growing up, there was nothing more annoying than somebody who was a LeBron lover, or then it was like somebody who loved Golden State, or somebody who loved the Steelers or the Patriots. And like, pick a team that sucks. You come from Seattle, the Mariners suck. We don't have a basketball team. The Seahawks weren't great yet. Nobody gives a shit about the Sounders. And it was like, oh, slam dunk, he soars like an eagle. And it's like, what? When did this turn into slam poetry? It's like, oh, he does a backwards turn and backwards dunk like a cat that he is. And it's like, what? When did this turn like 1950s vocabulary? What's up, you cool cat? What's cooking, cat? It's like, ugh, he soars like an eagle. Oh, he demolishes. Ugh. There's nothing more annoying than these hypocritical, phony, insincere broadcasters. Back in the day, they would flirt and catcall these cheerleaders at these big events. There wasn't even small regular games. I'm talking pro Super Bowls, And some of the funniest shit comes out of it. Radio used to be funny. Sportscasters used to be funny. And now they're the most boring people on the planet. You know what I mean? You could take the most boring fucking person out of like a 1950s high school talent show. It's like, look at my magic trick. Well, I'm gonna take a sock out of a hat and pour this milk in this newspaper stout, and you're gonna say, magic happened for it. It's gonna be magical. And they're more interesting than people broadcasting sports or at the fucking, I don't know, open mic shows in the unfunniest cities in America. Or you take those morning people on the news, if it's Good Morning America, and I'm not even talking about the one Imus was on in the early 70s when he was the shit. If it was Good Morning America or Good Night America, Friday night, Saturday night, I don't remember what it was, but he was on thing like that, and my God, they're boring. They're so fucking boring. It's just amazing to me. It's just amazing how you've ruined sports. Ruin them. And you're making it pink, and, it's with the slam poetry, and you have these women who aren't even talking about sports. They're talking about the players and probably their personal lives. And well, might as well watch the shit drunk or high, because you're ruining everything. Everything needs to be French and gay, and I don't fucking understand it. I can't explain it to you. I mean, no wonder I was so bored by sports. I was so afraid that I was gay or something because I was just so bored by everything. And it was the sportscasters. It's the fact that they want these games to go longer and longer to make more money, a longer viewership time, more commercials, especially with baseball because there's no timeouts, there's no penalties. Hockey's quick and fast. At least in basketball, you're scoring. In football, there's many timeouts. There's many commercial breaks. And in baseball, you don't really see that happening because, just one of those games where it's slow, you take your time, and, there aren't any penalties. There's only, like, errors and things like that. And, watch George Carlin explain the difference between baseball and football. It'll make much more sense when he does it than compared to when I do it. Everything's about money now. Even pornographies. And from a business standpoint, not even getting into what it's about. But it used to be long form. There used to be cuts and edits. It used to be on film. There was a music soundtrack. There weren't these companies pumping out these stupid videos. And some of them were more than an hour. Now they're no more than an hour. People have the shortest viewing span. I mean, it's fucking unbelievable. And it's not like a story. It's like a situation. What's the hook? And they used to be really funny. You ever watch Flush Gordon? That was funny and wacky with the clay and the animation. But now it's just vulgar and disgusting. But at least it was an art. They were trying to, do something with it. They were in theaters. They needed people to, stay in tune. Because they knew after like 15 minutes or so, people were going to leave. I don't know. Everything sucks. The past is everything's better. But getting back to Seattle, I'm not even being negative. I'm just being positive about the past. I'm being positive about how things used to be. Things used to be great. That's being positive, pal. And that's kind of what everything has become. You have a lot of comedians. I remember growing up watching tons of comedians. And I made a list of all the ones that were Jewish. The first that come to mind, like Rodney, because his name was like something Cohen. I don't remember, because Rodney Dangerfield is not his actual name. Obviously, Woody Allen. Obviously, Mel Brooks. I don't think Regis is Jewish. Not Norm. But Eric Andre is technically Jewish. Mark Maron, Jewish. Sarah Silverman, Jewish. Obviously, like the people that wrote for probably Jack Benny, the people that wrote for the George and Alan show, George Burns and Alan, when they were like this radio duo. A lot of the Three Stooges, Mo, Larry, and the original guy before Curly, and then ended up replacing him. He was Jewish. This is the most I can come up with. Obviously Seinfeld and Larry David. Who else? Those are the tops that I can come up with. But as a kid, I was so interested in the East Coast and all these other cities like Philly, Boston, New York, because people were different. They were funnier. A lot of the funny people came out of those places. It was just more interesting that people are using these terms I'd never heard of before, like jerk off, which just means you're gay, and cocksucker, or cocksucker, motherfucker. My family fucking hates it when I use those terms, but I just love it because it's sincere and honest. And that's what I was so interested in, was the honesty. Because people are nice on the West Coast, but they lie. They're not going to tell you your shirt's on backwards. They're not going to tell you, hey, you look autistic, dress that way, or something else. And especially nowadays, things are kind of different because people want to be nice and likable and have this sort of charm to them. But coming out of Seattle, it was something else, something of the kind. It was just the complete, utter opposite. Just radio was really interesting to me. Podcasts, Imus was interesting. Stern, O&A. I'd never seen people behave or speak to each other like that before. And I was just so interested in, and I wanted to go toward it. Because it was the opposite, Because I'd lived such a life of safety, Stay away from smoking and drugs and booze. It's dangerous. Ooh. But that's boring, A lot of the adults now that grew up in the 20th century, their excuse is, we didn't know Coca-Cola was bad for us. We didn't know smoking cigarettes was bad. But they lived a life of danger and excitement, or of, walking in between the lines or on the edge. An enjoyable, memorable life. I just remembered a bunch. Dave Smith, Big J Okerson, who I saw him in person. Just kind of crazy. Aaron Berg also saw him in person. When I was at the stand, there was a showcase, and I arrived a little late. I think I arrived just after them, and I got to see Ari Shaffir. I got to see this guy named Derek, who was just fucking hilarious. I got to see Nick Mullen was supposed to be there, but I either missed him or he didn't arrive. I probably missed him. It was weird because it was not like I got to see them in a show 5 feet away or whatever. They walked past me, and it was closer than being to them on stage. And if I had arrived on time, I never would have experienced that. Like, I got to hear them. I got to hear Aaron say goodbye, whatever he said. And I was literally a foot or two away. I was on the stool, and they walked right by the stool, as close as you could. They were like inches away from me. It was weird. I'd never been starstruck before, but that was it. I just kind of looked down like, awkward. It was weird. And fucking Ogerson's big. Like, not like fat, but tall. It was weird. It was like a dream. But yeah. And Jewish. I'm trying to think. Spielberg's Jewish. Not a lot of people are open. Obviously, Stern's Jewish. Are open about it. I don't remember Dangerfield ever. I don't remember an interview where he was ever speaking about that. I can't remember now. Shit. Anyway, really the theme of the show is just talking about the city I came from and what I'm proud of and the things I'm, attracted to. Not in a sexual way, but just like something I like and something I'm comfortable with that I want to know more about. I want to learn more about it and talk about it more. And that's sports. That's just being sincere. I grew up in an environment where people weren't sincere and they just thought, that wouldn't be nice. Because I never grew up around men ever. I never really met my grandfathers. I met my dad's dad probably 5 to 8 times. I don't think I ever met my mom's dad. Of course, I met my grandmothers, my dad, and my brother and half-brother. They were always a little feminine. And And that's why I was always attracted to acting like a man in sports and smoking and, drinking and these slobs, these lower class, didn't give a shit comedians on TV, Al Bundy, Luther Van Dam. There's one scene from Coach where he takes an old pizza box out from in between the cushions of a couch, and he opens it, takes a bite, and then with his mouth full, oh, still good, and then cut to dun da 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 dun, 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 the whole theme. He just takes that and he's like, oh, that's from last Christmas, and he just takes a bite. Oh, still good. Like, life's pretty good. All those scenes from Marriage with Children when he's drinking really strong coffee, or he finds the last M&M. So, life is good. Like shit like that. It was just sound fucking hilarious. Just like the small things in life. Just enjoy what you can, and life is a little better. It's not all bad. And I can't imagine once the Mariners do well, because it took the Cubs like 100 years. Back to the Future predicted that they would make the series in 2015, and they didn't make it till a year later. They made the playoffs that year, but they didn't make the actual World Series, and they won the next year, 2016. But they were off by a year, which is fucking insane. And making that prediction decades before, that's back in 1985. That's what 95 to this much. That's 31 years ahead of its time. They predicted they would win the World Series. Wait, no, that's not true. Because that's Back to the Future 2. That's 1989, not to 19... No, I'm wrong. Yeah, they made the prediction 1989, not 1985. Whenever the part 2 came out. And then part 3 was like the 90s. But it was the point of the show was just my city and a lot of my influences. It was like Gavin McInnes and Anthony Cumia, and I discovered a lot of those guys right around the pandemic, a lot of those political guys, and my God, they are boring. They're not very funny. The Crowder or the Dave Rubin or the Ben Shapiro, they're not very funny. They're wise and all that, but not the funniest. But there's a whole world, just waiting. It's like, I didn't know these people existed. I had no fucking idea. I had no clue who Colin Quinn was, or Nick DiPaolo, or Patrice O'Neill, or any of those people. It's like, what? Nobody ever told me. My God. It's always the bigger, more popular ones that people, talk about, discuss, and all that. Like Seinfeld or whoever. Like, there were a lot of shows I didn't know anything about. I discovered Always Sunny until I was in like 7th grade, or Family Guy until I was in like 6th grade. I didn't know what Arrested Development was, or Robot Chicken, or, Curb Your Enthusiasm, or, what were the other ones? Mike Tyson Mysteries, based off Scooby-Doo, shows like that. And I'm trying to think like more of the Jewish. I can't remember a lot of the Jews. I'd be able to find a list. There's got to be something online. Something. But I remember watching a lot of these documentaries on comedy, and a lot of it, like a lot of the Jewish humor. I think there were 2. I gotta find them. Maybe it's like Jewish humor documentary. There's got to be something. One was called When Jews Were Funny. I can't remember what the other one was. When Jews Are Funny. There was another one. And they were talking about your religion, That was one of them. Can't remember. Yeah, that one's on Tubi TV. I actually watched that again. That was good. Jewish humor or Jewish comedy doc, maybe. And there was this guy named Modi talking about how you have your Judaism, your thing that's your religion, this fucking career of yours. If it's making documentaries or doing stand up or making movies, you know. Oh, Howie Mandel, that's another one. When Jews were funny. What's the other one? There was another one. It was on Jewish humor. Gotta find it. Jews were funny. It's gotta be something. The Last Laugh? Nah. I'll be able to find it. Rabbi Jacob, the French movie. Comedy doc, maybe. You'll be able to find it that way. Then I gotta look up like Jewish comedians. And there were a lot of like Jewish animators as well. No, that's not it. Dying Laughing? Nah, that wasn't it. When Jews were funny, maybe Laughing Matters? I can't find it. Shit. There was another one. I don't remember where it was or what it was. I must have it in my notes or something. When stand-up stood out. Yeah. And I was watching another one on like all the Boston comics. Just hilarious. Misery Loves Comedy. That name sounds familiar. Kevin Brennan. But yeah, Jewish comedians, that's right. Jewish comedians. I named a couple of them, but there's a lot I'm forgetting. Mel Brooks, Larry David, Jack Benny, okay. Jon Stewart, but he's not. He used to be funny. He used to be really funny in like the 2000s. Gilda Radner, Joan Rivers. Oh, that's actually Jewish. George Burns, I wasn't sure. Albert Brooks, Sarah Silverman. Oh, Rickles, Lonnie Bruce, Sid Caesar, Woody Allen, Jerry Lewis, Gary Shandling, Groucho Marx, Robert Klein, Mort Saul, Lewis Black. Who else? Let's see. Carl Reiner, Bob Saget. Shemp Howard. He was the guy I forgot. Because Shemp Howard and Moe and Lara were all Jewish, but Curly wasn't. The guy with the buzz cut. He wasn't Jewish. And obviously Seinfeld. But I can't remember that Jewish humor doc. It's going to drive me nuts. I think we just go when Jews were funny. But there was another one that was really good. There's got to be another one. Maybe just like comedy documentary. It's got to be here somewhere. But oh yeah, I was talking about the Jewish animators. There's got to be something on like Wikipedia or something like that. Dying Laughing. Maybe it was Dying Laughing? I don't remember. Let's see. The Gilbert doc was good. I remember watching that on Hulu. And then there was the Gilda Radner one, which was pretty good. And then the Trevor Noah one was terrible. It was so boring. I don't think I laughed like ever. It was so bad. It was the unfunny piece of garbage. Let's see. Um, I don't know. I'll be able to find it somewhere. But oh yeah, Jewish. There were a lot of Jewish animators, and that was another whole like topic that I was just so interested in. I guess it was like the South Park guys. Yeah, you have the Fleischer brothers who worked on Betty Boop and I think like a Superman movie or something. Jack Kirby, who worked with Stan Lee on the Marvel comics. He was Jewish. He did a lot of the drawing. I don't think he came up with the ideas, but he's the one who came up with the pictures. Bob Kane, who came up with Batman, for God's sakes. And I think he had something to do with one of the Michael Keaton Batman movies, because he was talking about it when he was on Stan Lee's talk show. Stan Lee used to have a talk show, and that was around the time one of the Batman movies was coming out. I think it was the first. That was like 89. Jack Kirby. Oh, Ralph Bakshi, obviously. Fritz the Cat, and Stan Lee was Jewish. I think that's kind of it. But crack my back there. But yeah, there's a whole world. Yeah, I kind of talked about Seattle, but you should do the same for your city or your thing that you feel connected with. Connect to your roots or whatever the fuck. Through whoever you're interested in. There should be a reason you're influenced by a certain person. But then again, it's also like a feeling. So whoever you're, inspired by or influenced by, just, figure out why. Anyway, toodaloo.